Hello there, welcome to today's chemistry video. In this video, we will be doing Cambridge IGCSE chemistry specimen paper for examinations in 2020. This is paper 4, the theory paper. Question 1. The following table gives information about 6 substances. The table shows their melting and boiling points and electrical conductivity as both a solid and a liquid. Part A. Which substance could be a metal? For metals, we know that they have high melting and boiling points, and they're good electrical conductors whether in a solid state or a liquid state. So if you look at the table, we can see that substance A is the only substance with good electrical conductivity as a solid and a liquid, and has a fairly high melting and boiling points. The answer is A. Part B. State all the substances that are liquid at room temperature. A room temperature can be roughly estimated as 25 degrees Celsius. And if a substance needs to be a liquid in 25 degrees Celsius, it should have melted in a temperature lower than 25 degrees Celsius. Also, its boiling point should be higher than 25 degrees Celsius, as it should not change to gas at room temperature. In other words, we need to look for substances whose melting point is lower than 25 degrees Celsius and its boiling point higher than 25 degrees Celsius. That would be substances D and F from the table. Part C. Which substance could have a macromolecular structure similar to that of silicon 4 oxide? The distinctive properties of a macromolecular structure like silicon 4 oxides are very high melting and boiling points, and they do not conduct electricity in neither solid nor a liquid state. Going back to our table, we can see that substance E has very high melting and boiling points and is a poor conductor of electricity as a solid and a liquid. Therefore, the answer is E. Part D. Which substance could be a propane? A propane is a 3-carbon alkane that is a gas at room temperature and does not conduct electricity as a solid or a liquid. Again, if a substance is a gas at room temperature, its melting and boiling points will be lower than 25 degrees Celsius because it needs to have already boiled before reaching 25 degrees Celsius. So from the table, a substance with melting and boiling points lower than 25 degrees Celsius is substance B, and it's also a poor conductor of electricity as a solid and a liquid. The answer is B. Part E. Which substance could be sodium chloride? Sodium chloride is an ionic compound. Ionic compounds will have high melting and boiling points, and they will conduct electricity only when they are in an aqueous form or in a molten state. Substances A, C, and E have high melting and boiling points, but only substance C has a poor electrical conductivity as a solid, but a good electrical conductivity as a liquid. So the answer is C. Question 2. The table gives the composition of 3 particles. Part A. What is the evidence in the table for each of the following? The first one says particle A is an atom. If we take a look at particle A from the table, we can see that it has same number of protons and electrons, and thus its charge is balanced. Therefore, we can write they have same number of protons and electrons. Second question, A, B, and C are all particles of the same element. What pattern do we see from the table when we compare these 3 particles? They have same number of protons, and remember, the number of protons is the one that determines the type of element. The answer is they have same number of protons. Third question. Particles A and C are isotopes of the same element. What are isotopes? The definition of isotopes is particles with same number of protons but different number of neutrons, while particle A and C both have 15 protons and different number of neutrons. So we can write that as the answer. Same number of protons but different number of neutrons. Part B. First question. What is the electronic structure of particle A? The maximum number of electrons in the first shell is 2, and for the second shell it's 8. The number of electrons of A is 15, so it will be 2, 8, 5. Second question. Is element A a metal or a nonmetal? Give a reason for your choice. Since the electronic structure is 285, we know that it has 5 electrons in its outermost shell, and therefore it is in group 5, and an element in group 5 will be a nonmetal. The answer is nonmetal because it is in group 5. Question 3. Kinetic theory explains the properties of matter in terms of the arrangement and movement of particles. Part A. Nitrogen is a gas at room temperature. Nitrogen molecules N2 are spread far apart and move in a random manner at high speed. So, draw the electronic structure of a nitrogen molecule. Show only the outer electrons. A nitrogen molecule is made of 2 nitrogen atoms, so we need to draw 2 circles here to represent that. And each nitrogen is in group 5, so it has 5 outer electrons. Since a complete shell needs to have 8 electrons in its outer shell, each nitrogen atom requires 3 more electrons. So these nitrogen atoms will share 3 electrons from each other. When we draw it, it should be in this way. 6 electrons between the 2 nitrogen atoms and 2 electrons on each side of the nitrogen atoms. Part 2. Compare the movement and arrangement of the molecules in solid nitrogen to those in nitrogen gas. We just need to give 3 differences between a solid and a gas, as it is a 3-mark question. Firstly, solid particles are close together while gas particles are far apart from each other. Secondly, a solid has a regular pattern whereas a gas will have no pattern. Lastly, solid particles vibrate in a fixed position while gas particles can move freely around. Part B. A sealed container contains nitrogen gas. The pressure of the gas is due to the molecules of the gas hitting the walls of the container. Use the kinetic theory to explain why the pressure inside the container increases when the temperature is increased. First of all, when the temperature is increased, the particles will have more energy. They will then have more collisions with each other and with the wall, increasing the pressure. Moving on, we have the next question. The following apparatus can be used to measure the rate of diffusion of a gas. We can see that gas is trapped inside the gas syringe and pressure is applied with a small hole on the right for some gas to escape. The following results were obtained. A table with different gases, temperature, and rate of diffusion is given here. Part C. Explain why nitrogen gas diffuses faster than chlorine gas. The rate of diffusion of nitrogen is 1 cm³ per minute, whereas for chlorine it's 0.63, while the rate of diffusion is dependent on the molecular mass of a gas. So the answer is nitrogen has smaller molecular mass and its particles move faster than chlorine molecules. Next, explain why the nitrogen gas diffuses faster at the higher temperature. Again, at higher temperature, molecules have more energy, so they move faster. Question 4. Chromium is a transition element. Part A. State 2 differences in physical properties of chromium and sodium. Chromium is a transition element, but sodium is not. So if we compare these two, we can say chromium has higher density or is harder than sodium, and chromium has a higher melting point than sodium. State 2 differences in the chemical properties of chromium and sodium. Since chromium is a transition element, it has more than one oxidation state, but sodium just has one. Another point is chromium forms colored compounds, but sodium compounds are white. Part B. Chromium is used to electroplate steel objects. The diagram shows how this could be done. A diagram of electrolysis is given here. Give two reasons why steel objects are plated with chromium. So first of all, chromium has a shiny appearance, making the object look more attractive, and it is able to resist corrosion, preventing the object from rusting. Next, the formula of the chromium 3 ion is Cr3+, and of the sulfate ion is SO4 2-. Give the formula of chromium 3 sulfate. It's really simple. Just exchange the charges with each other to balance them. So it will be Cr2 bracket SO4 bracket closed 3. Write the ionic half equation for the reaction at the negative electrode. The negative electrode is where the object is placed to be plated, so the final product will be chromium atom. Also, it is a negative electrode, so it will attract positive ions. The answer is Cr3 plus 3 electrons to balance out the charge, giving Cr. A colorless gas which relights a glowing splint is formed at the positive electrode. State the name of this gas. Well, which gas can relight the glowing splint? It's oxygen. Oxygen ions are negatively charged, so it makes sense that it is formed at the positive electrode. Part 5. During the electroplating, it is necessary to add more chromium 3 sulfate, but during copper plating using a copper anode, it is not necessary to add more copper 2 sulfate. Explain this difference. When we are electroplating with chromium ions are used up, so chromium 3 sulfate solution needs to be replaced. However, for copper plating using a copper anode, copper ions are replaced directly by copper anode, so it does not need to be replaced. Question 5. Iron is extracted from its ore hematite in the blast furnace. The diagram of the process is given here. This is a very common diagram, so it's the best if you can keep this image in your mind. Describe the reactions involved in this extraction. Include one equation for a redox reaction and one for an acid-base reaction. So this type of question has been coming out for many years, and as you can see, you need to memorize all the reactions related to this process in the right order. So firstly, carbon will react with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. Then, carbon dioxide is reduced to form carbon monoxide. With the carbon monoxide formed, it will reduce the ion ore Fe2O3 to Fe ion. The limestone added will remove the silica to form slag. The limestone will then decompose. For the redox reaction, you can write any of this. These are all related to the process that I just explained, but just in chemical symbols. For the acid-base reaction, you may write one of these. These are related to the reactions with limestone and silica. I have covered 5 questions in this video and will do the rest for important questions in my next video. So stay tuned and subscribe to my channel so you can watch my next video as soon as it's uploaded. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you guys. Stay safe and God bless you guys. Bye.